Hi everyone, very good morning and welcome back to Crack Grade B. So in this particular session, we are going to talk about the NBFCs, everything that is related to NBFCs and its classification, etc. All the things we will be discussing over here. So let's start. First of all, let's understand what does NBFC means on a conceptual level. ठीक है? NBFC का मतलब होता क्या है? So we know banks and then there are certain other companies. Because India is such a big economy, having just banks might not fulfill the requirements of the economy that it has for the finance related things, right? So therefore, we see various kinds of structures being starting. One of them is NBFCs. So NBFCs are different from the bank if we see from the perspective of deposit. Okay, so like banks, we can go to the bank, we can just deposit our amounts, fine, or we can do that. But can NBFCs take deposit? So cannot take savings deposit or demand deposit that we call to them. That means on demand, it is not allowed to withdraw the funds. Like SEBI bank may we can do that, but not in case of NBFCs. NBFCs are classified as deposit taking, non-deposit taking, but that deposit is not demand deposit, right? So I hope you understand the difference. Demand deposit means whenever the customer is demanding, you have to serve him with his deposit. So a demand deposit can be classified as your savings deposit, as your current account, right? So these are what? These are demand deposits. Whenever I want, I can withdraw the funds from it. Getting my point? So this is what is called as the deposit taking and non-deposit taking. चलिए आइए. So let's read the definition. So NBFCs in India, they include not just the finance company that the general public is largely familiar with, but also wider group of companies. Wider group of company, देखो, normally तो we know that okay, finance companies, NBFCs do finance in the market, right? But even after, even along with providing the finance, they provide any other kind of things as well. They can have different sort of objectives, and those objectives are, they could be in insurance, they could be in chit funds, nidhi, merchant banking, stock broking, alternative investments, etc, etc. They could be in all of this, and we are going to read about it in a bit. ठीक है, इसके बारे में भी हम पढ़ेंगे कि what it is all about. So we are going to see that. Now, what is the role of NBFCs or the requirements of NBFCs? We'll see it one by one. So being financial intermediaries, the NBFCs are engaged in bringing the savings and investing community together. See, bank is acting as an intermediary where bank is collecting the demand deposit and then it is giving the loans. Same is not the case with the NBFCs. NBFCs take the in savings that are in market. अब वो savings not necessarily in form of demand deposit, right? That savings could be in form of other instruments as well. Now, while banks have predominantly been catering to the customers with strong credit credentials, ठीक है, normally bank only cater to such kind of customers who are having good credit ratings or who can, means the bank can trust on to them, but NBFCs are absorbing more risk. See, obviously, if banks are there and banks are serving a particular strata, then there is a lower strata of people who are left and who are not having any benefit of the financial services. So we need to provide them services for their good also, right? So this is what we do by having the non-banking finance companies. Non-banking finance companies provide the financial benefits to those as well who are not having the benefit. ठीक है, उनको भी प्रोवाइड करती हैं. Therefore most of the okay, Though NBFCs do undertake bank-like financial activities, none of them have access to cheaper funds like the bank has. See, in case of demand deposits, your banks give very low amount of interest rate. बहुत ज़्यादा कम देते हैं. If you are having a savings bank account, then you would realize it that the interest that you get is not even peanuts, right? It is too less, too less. So the cost of funding of demand deposits is too less, but the same kind of facility is not available for the NBFCs. So we can say that even after having the disadvantage of not having demand deposits, they are taking on more risk, they are serving more customers, and hence it becomes important for us to give a due attention on the NBFCs sector. ठीक है? Therefore, most of the NBFCs now, if they do not have the funding from demand deposits, from where they take their funding? So most of the NBFCs, they rely on public funds, जैसे कि बैंक borrowings, right? Non-convertible debentures, intercorporate loans, commercial papers, etc. So these are the instruments through which your NBFCs borrow. That's what. See, they do not take demand deposits, but I never said that NBFCs do not take deposit. In the initial time only, I told you that NBFCs can be divided into two parts: deposit taking, non-deposit taking. ठीक है? आप demand deposit नहीं issue कर सकते. The demand deposit means fixed deposit does not comes under the category of demand deposit. Demand deposit का मतलब होता है whenever the customer will seek his deposit, you have to pay it to him, right? आपको उसको pay करना पड़ेगा. So this is what we know as demand deposits. Your savings as well as your current, they both come under the demand deposits, and the NBFCs, they cannot issue demand deposit. मतलब वो funding demand deposit से नहीं ले सकते. This is what we meant to say. FD doesn't come under the demand deposits. So please make a note of it. ठीक है? Next is leveraging on these funds. NBFCs has emerged as a very important and a significant element of financial sector, financing small medium enterprise, second hand vehicles. See, second hand vehicles. Now banks, they do finance, but the new vehicles, etc., right? Rarely for second hand vehicles, but NBFCs does that as well. So जितना भी risky काम होता है ना finance related, whatever the risky propositions are, that are taken up by the NBFCs. So they fill a gap. ठीक है? ये financing में एक gap को fill करती हैं. Now retail customers, socially important microfinance sector, etc., etc. See, microfinance or your other kinds of sectors which are in the need of funds, but they are not having such kind of availability of funds from the bank side, they go to the NBFCs and they get their funding from the NBFCs. They have played a supplementary role to bank in financial intermediation and a complementary role in the financial inclusion as well. Now next is NBFC has also played a role in shadow banking. अब ये shadow banking क्या होता है? See, filling in the gap, right? Gap को fill करना means shadow, when a shadow is formed, when you are walking ahead and your shadow is following you up, right? So we can say that one who's walking ahead is the bank, and the shadow which is following is these kind of institutions which are fulfilling the requirement of the normal public. ठीक है? जो बाकी की, see, there are so many finance related requirements and they fulfill all such kinds of requirement. So shadow banking system, the bank-like financial intermediation undertaken by enterprises other than banks is referred as the shadow banking system globally. एक तो होते हैं आपके बैंक, और फिर बैंक की परछाई क्या होगी? Those entities which are following up the bank which are fulfilling the finance related requirements of the public. उनको हम क्या बोलते हैं? shadow banking, right? So the FSB, Financial Stability Board, what does Financial Stability Board means? We are going to talk about that as well, but अभी देखो what the definition they have provided. So they have said credit intermediation involving entities and activities outside the regular banking system. So this is called as the shadow banking. They are normally denied access to central bank liquidity or explicit public sector credit guarantees like deposit insurance, but may or may not have implicit ones. The key difference between banks and shadow banks is the extent of intermediates and attendance regulatory control. So the kind and the level of control RBI is having on the banks, I'm not denying that it is not having the same kind of control on the NBFCs, but the depth is differing. ठीक है, depth differ करती है for both shadow banking and the normal our banking system. Now, what is Financial Stability Board? So it is a G20 related institution. G20, group of 20 countries that we have. So FSB is an international body that monitors and makes recommendations about the global financial system. Was established in the year 2009 after G20 London Summit in April 2009 as a successor to Financial Stability Forum. Who all are there? Who all are the members of it? So all G20 major economies are the members of it, including India. Your Stability Forum members, they are also members of it, and the European Commission. It is based in the Basel, Switzerland. So what you have to remember is that it is a G20 related instrument, a factual data that you can just have a look on to. ठीक है, बहुत ज़्यादा आपको आंसर राइटिंग वगैरह में तो हेल्प नहीं करेगा, but yes, it is a factual data. Now, next is non-banking financial companies is a company which is registered under the Companies Act. So Companies Act 1956-2003, why it is written? 1956 was the old act, ठीक है, ये पुराना था. The year also depicts that. And the 2013 act is the newer one. It has been launched recently, not recently, but yeah, you can just say that 10 years have passed. Yes. So the form of organization non-banking finance companies. तो क्या form of organization होता है इनका? Mandatorily it is company form of organization, number one thing, because in the name itself they are having the name of company. Now non-banking finance companies in India, what kind of work or what kind of business they do? So a NBFC as defined under the RBI Act, it is a company registered under the Companies Act, and what kind of business it can do? So lending or financing, acquisition of shares, stocks, bonds, debentures. See why it is going to do that? Any entity that has money with it, ऐसी कोई भी entity जिसके पास में पैसा होता है, they make investments, right? They make investments, and so they are also making the investment. Leasing and hire purchase, insurance business, chit business, collection of monies, acceptance of deposits. But here not demand deposit. Deposit ले सकते हैं, but that could not be demand deposit. See what is the difference? I'll tell you. So suppose I had 1 lakh rupees, ठीक है, मेरे पास 1 लाख रुपए थे, and I deposited it into the savings bank account. मैंने savings bank account में deposit कर दिया. That means what? If today itself I want to withdraw, I can withdraw, right? If I want to withdraw after 4 days, I can withdraw the whole 1 lakh rupees. There is no what you can say obligation on to me. मेरे ऊपर कोई obligation नहीं है Whether I would like to withdraw it today or after 4 days, I can withdraw it. That is called as a demand deposit. Whenever the customer demands, the bank has to give it. But suppose I have 1 lakh rupees and I have opened a fixed deposit, let's say for 5 years, right, or 6 years, or like whatever the duration. That means what? I cannot utilize those funds for a period of 5 years or 6 years, right? Those funds are now blocked for a certain time period. That is not my demand deposit. I cannot demand it. Okay? So this is called as, yes, NBFCs can take deposits. There are two types of NBFCs, deposit taking and non-deposit taking, but they cannot take demand deposit. Okay? I hope you have understood it. Now let's move forward. But there are certain exceptions as well. कुछ और exceptions भी हैं. What are these exceptions? So they do not include any company which carries on the business of agriculture, not allowed. Industrial